guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing very nice. I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. Hi, if you're new, welcome to the channel. I really hope you enjoy the content. If you do, please do consider subscribing. When I was collecting all of these books right now, I forgot that I got some of these books in the month of August. It felt like I got it in July beginning or something, and so I completely forgot that I got it in this month, but it's over now, which means it's time for a monthly book haul. These are all of the books that I received in the month of August. I got some really interesting books this time. Some of them are out of my comfort zone, some of them I have read and I already love so much, and some of them are smack dab in the middle of my comfort zone and I love it so much, and I'm so excited to share them with you. Let's begin the video. The first book I got is Summer Reading by Jen McKinley. This book I got as a part of a thing that Penguin India is holding, which is the hashtag romance fever, where they sent me books from certain romance tropes and I was supposed to choose a book and read it, and this one is the holiday romance trope. As beautiful as the cover is, the book in itself is also very interesting. It's a story of two people whose interests don't align with each other. One of the characters loves book, the other one hates books. Not hates book, but is not into books. One of the characters loves romantic relationships, the other one stays away from it. I think it is opposites attract, which is something I really enjoy, and the text inside is super duper huge. Not that huge, but huge, and so I am so excited to give this a shot. The next book that Penguin only sent me for the same romance fever campaign is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Awaiki Emizi. I already had this book, but my book for some reason was like so big and so thick that I never got to it, even though it was in my TBR since a long time. Still don't know what this book is about. I bought it once and I did not know what it's about. Now I've received it again and I still don't know what it is about, but this edition is so pretty and it is so digestible for me. It is so small that I just want to pick it up. Like, there are books, when the books are big and thick, I in my mind feel like I need a good amount of time to sit and read them properly. I don't feel like, oh, I'll just pick it up on a random day and just like start reading it, and which is why with the other edition I was not getting that feeling, but this edition I am getting that feeling. So I'm excited to just pick it up someday and start reading it. The third book that I got for hashtag romance fever was Business or Pleasure by Rachel Lynn Solomon, who is also the author of the X Talk or another YA book. I think it's Today, Tonight, Tomorrow that I really want to read, and so when I saw this book I was like, you know what, I really want it, so I got it. This one is a second chance romance and I've already read it and I've already talked about it. This is the book that I chose for romance fever. I will put the link in the description for you to check it out. That video also has other 11 adult romance recommendations, so I think you will really enjoy it, so you can go and check it out. But for now, all I can say is that the cover itself and the title, it is about business and pleasure, and the other, no, I'm not going to review it actually. I'm going to wait for the August wrap up, but it was definitely an amazing book and I love the cover so much. Next up, I think I'm entering a whole new world in the reading world, a world that many have entered but I have not till now. I feel like so many people get into reading because of this author, or even if they don't get into reading because of this author, they do know this author, and I also know this author, and this author is like just too popular, but I've never read anything by this author, and the author is Stephen King. First up, we have Billy Summers by Stephen King, one of you guys whose message I have now lost. So if you were the one who messaged me for this, message me again. I want to thank you personally. One of you guys messaged me on Instagram saying, hey Anchal, Billy Summers, the hardcover is for 169 rupees on Amazon, you can check it out. And as soon as I saw that message, my first thought was that what if it is a pirated book? And then I went on Amazon and the first thing I do is see who the seller is. And I think it was Coco Blue Retail only. So I was like, you know what, it is a hardcover book, I know the seller already, and it is for 169 rupees. So even if I do get it and it is pirated, I'll just return it, but the chances are very low that it's going to be pirated, and I don't want to miss out on this opportunity. So I got this book for myself. Fortunately though, as soon as I got it, and because I had already seen it in Crossword when I went to the bookstore, I think last month, I knew what it looks like, I knew what the original copy looks like, and this is the original copy and it is perfect and the condition is perfect. And now I have the hardcover of Billy Summers by Stephen King only for 169 rupees. This is pure luck. This is pure blessing and I'm so grateful for it. And the next book I got by Stephen King is 11/22/63. There was no way I was going to get this book, honestly, because this is not the edition I want of this book. There is an Instagram account, my bad, I don't know his name, but I follow him since quite a while at this point. point, I think 2 to 3 weeks, and he talked about 11/22/63 so much, with so much love, that I had my eyes on this already since a long time, because I think the premise is really interesting, and people say that even though the romance is not the plot, it is very, very beautiful and it's very prominent, and at the same time it is a thriller. So I really, really wanted to read it anyhow. But he, who I am now going to call CJ Talks because that is the name of his Instagram account, he talked about it with so much love, like it's the best book that he has ever read in his entire life. I saw that reel and I just knew that I am not going to wait to find the right edition of it and then buy that one, because the other edition that I want is literally the prettiest thing ever, and it is a large paperback. This one is the tiny paperback, and that one also has large text, and this one has literally the tiniest text in the world. So it's definitely going to be a challenge for me to read it, but I have heard so many good things about it, and CJ Talks has talked so much about it. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to get it. I don't care, I cannot wait. So I'm so excited about it. Next we have The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. She is the author of The Spanish Love Deception. I am not the biggest fan of The Spanish Love Deception, but there are times where when you don't like one book of an author, there are chances that you like another book of an author. And so I have been eyeing this book since a very, very long time, and then one of you, Vasundhara, actually decided to gift it to me, so I'm very grateful for it. Thank you so much. And she sent this to me, and now that I do have it, and I think it also came up in my September TBR, I'm probably gonna read it this month itself and see what it's going to be like, and if my opinion on Elena Armas's books is going to change, because there is another book coming out by her only, and the premises of her books are just so interesting that I do want to read those books. But my experience with The Spanish Love Deception was so bad that I'm also scared, so this one is going to be an interesting read to figure out what I actually feel. Another romance is Always the Almost by Edward Underhill. This is the story of two guys, but it is not only a romance. First of all, look at that cover. It is so beautiful, so beautiful, and for some reason I feel like this cover and this cover really go hand in hand, probably because this orangish color is there, like, which is, it's the full cover of this book. So I feel like they really go together and they look so good together, which I love. And they're the story of two amazing people. This one was the warmest book ever, and so Divyanshi mailed me and she was like, you know what, Anchal, I think you will really enjoy this book. And I was like, you know what, Divyanshi, yes, I think I will. And so she sent it to me, and I'm so grateful for it, and it is such an amazing book. Again, I'll talk about it more in the wrap-up video, but it was one of the most beautiful reads that I had in the month of August. Next up, I got Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent or Nugent. I really have to Google the name. I have dirtied the book at this point. I am actually reading this book for a 24-hour, not a readathon, but I read for 24 hours with the timer on and off, and I have already read this book and it is crazy. Look at that cover. That cover itself was giving me Eleanor Oliphant Is Completely Fine plus Fleabag White. Fleabag is a series on Prime which I recently watched, and that was literally one of the best series that I have ever watched in my entire life. Like that ending, that those characters, the names, everything, it was so strange, but also it just fit. And so when I saw this one, Strange Sally Diamond, I was like, I really, really want to read it. And then I also came to know that this is a psychological thriller. So it's Eleanor Oliphant Is Completely Fine plus Fleabag, but make it psychological thriller. And it is sort of like that. But after I read it, I did feel like it is much more than that, which again I'll talk about in the wrap-up. But I love this book so much already. This is so freaking velvety that I kept it in the cover for the longest time, till I did not have to literally take it out to read the book. And I want to keep it back in the cover, but I'm not going to, and I feel like I have already dirtied it, which is just like so sad. But now I'm trying to keep it between books so that I don't dirty it more, and I love it. Next, I got a book and I literally almost cried that day. I have talked about American Psycho, the movie, so many times earlier. Whenever it comes to thrillers or dark books or a villain's POV, I think American Psycho, given that it is so old, I think it came out in 2001, I think that American Psycho is sort of like a classic. I don't know if it is actually a classic, but in my mind, for a villain's POV trope, it is a classic. And American Psycho is one of my most favorite movies ever. It is gruesome and it is horrible. Patrick Bateman is literally the worst guy ever, but it's a villain's POV, and that is what I want in a villain's POV. And I later on came to know that it's actually a book. And Picador, which is an imprint of Pan Macmillan, actually has a special edition for American Psycho, and I saw it and I was like, I really want it, and I mailed Divyanshi and I was like, you know what, like, do you have this book? Like, I really want it. And she was like, I'm sorry, it's not available right now, so she won't be able to send it. And I was like, you know what, it's okay. And then on Saturday, I was not expecting any book at all, and in the evening at 7:38 p.m. when a book never comes, so it was totally unexpected, and I was not having the best day ever. So it was like, wait, what just happened? I got the book, and I actually thought that it is the third part of these books, which I'm going to talk about in a second. So I was like, oh yeah, I got a book. Like, I was happy about that only. And then I opened the package and I got this book. It is the Picador collection version of American Psycho. Look at that cover. Look at it's bad. My parents saw it and they were like, Anchal, what do you read? My mom was like, take that book away from me. I do not want to look at it. And I was like, yay, I got it. And then I was just jumping around the house and I could not believe this actually happened. And it was just such a special feeling. It's so exciting when the books you receive have like a story attached to it or some sort of an experience attached to it. And that's what happened with this book. And I don't know when I will be reading it because I am scared, because I love the movie so much. I sort of don't want to ruin the picture of Patrick Bateman in my mind, and I don't want to ruin that in my mind. He has to be the best villain ever, even now. So I don't know when I'll read it, but I'm so grateful to have it. Next up, I got another very surprising book. I mean, the book was not surprising that I got it, but I have already read it and it was such a surprising read for me. We have Carla by Colin Walsh. This book has an Irish backdrop, and we have 6 friends over there who have had the summer of their lifetime when they were 15 years old. Now some of those friends come back into town. There's basically sort of like a reunion, and though they have different motives, when there is a reunion, Carla's bones are found, which means that she is actually definitely dead. So we get to see what actually happened to Carla, what happened in that summer, and what happens with all of these characters. This was definitely an experiment for me. I read the blurb of the book and I also read some of the reviews, and I knew that this is something I can like, but I also knew that I've never read something like this before. I got the book, I opened it, and I roamed around with it literally everywhere. I would keep it like this and I was roaming around, and it just looked so good, especially when I went for coffee and I had it with me, because I could not part myself from this book. That's how much I loved it, even before reading it, because I love the cover and the premise so much. And then I did read it, and it turned out to be amazing. So this is definitely one amazing surprise that I got this month. I look at it and I love it. Next up, I got a book from HarperCollins, which is Need Me by Tessa Bailey. I saw Tessa Bailey's name and I already knew that I'm getting it, but there was still a choice between 3 Tessa Bailey books, and still I chose this one. The other 2 were Chase Me and Make Me. But then I read the premise of all of these books, and this romance is between a guy and a girl, and the guy is a professor, and I have always wanted to read such a romance, and so it took me 1 second to be like, oh, please send me this book. There's not a lot to say when it comes to Tessa Bailey. I love Tessa Bailey covers, so I love this cover so much. I love Tessa Bailey's premises, and I love the premise of this book so much. The thing is that I have already read it. Do I like it or do I not like it? That is the question, which will be answered, don't worry. But in the wrap up, the next book I got is The Locked Door by Frida McFadden. I am probably going to become a Frida McFadden enthusiast. I have read this book also. How many books have I already read that I got? This is the story of Nora, who when she was 11 years old found out that her father is a serial killer, and then we get to see what she is like after she grows up and she becomes a doctor herself, and 2 patients from her hospital or clinic die. This is the first Frida McFadden book I have read. People like The Housemaid so much more, so I'm very excited to read that one. Another Frida McFadden book is The Inmate, which I wanted to read right after The Locked Door, but I was like, if I keep reading her books back to back, what if I get bored of it? And so I did not want to take a chance, and I did not read it. But I am definitely sure that I'm going to read it in the month of September, because her books are so tiny. Like, they're so tiny. It's not that tiny when you're reading. So many things happen when you're reading the books, but it just again looks very digestible. It looks like I can just pick it up and I start reading it and finish it in one day, and that is what I'm gonna do with this one too. This is the story of 2 people in the prison who used to know each other, and I think the main character had a crush on the other inmate, and now they come across each other, and I think again pasts will be dug up and things like that will happen. So I'm very excited to read this one. Next up, we have History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silver. Vera. This was not supposed to be there, honestly, in this wrap up, but one of you guys, you're so sweet. It was there already on my audiobooks TBR, so I started listening to it instantly and I loved it so much. And then I put a story that, oh, I really want this book, and the next day I had this book, which is crazy. Like, I put it in my wish list and I had this book the next day, and I am so grateful to Bharati for actually sending this book to me. This is like, my heart is so full. Again, I am literally in love with the cover, like so in love with the cover. And now I have two books by Adam Silvera and they look very similar, honestly. So this again looks so good in the shelf together, and even like this, I love it. The next book I got is Miss Ice Sandwich by Mieko Kawakami. I really hope I'm taking the name right. Actually, I'm sure I'm taking the name right. This is what it looks like, which it's so pretty and it's super small and tiny. It's like 92 pages. You guys don't know this, like even if you regularly watch my videos, but I have read Breasts and Eggs by Mieko Kawakami as an audiobook, and because I read it as an audiobook and at that time I was not making wrap-ups, I completely forgot that I read that book, and I loved that book so much. So I knew that this book is going to be good, and even if it is short, I am going to give it as much time as possible. But I read it in one sitting and it was such an adorable book, even if it is tiny. And Meenakshi sent it to me, and I love Meenakshi for this and I love Meenakshi for this. I feel like the titles that she has sent me, they were both such a good surprise for me that it stole my heart away. This one was like crazy. How do you do that in 90 pages? Next up, I got Our Share of the Night by Mariana Enriquez, who is also the author of The Dangers of Smoking in Bed. I was actually going to put The Dangers of Smoking in Bed on my TBR, on my yearly TBR for this year, but I think that one, it's a collection of short stories, and I don't read a lot of collections of short stories. Like, I do read short stories like this if they're tiny, that I don't mind at all, but I don't read a collection, except obviously Cursed Bunny was an exception for me, and so I did not put it on my yearly TBR. But this one just came to me. The genre of this book is horror, and I realized I have never ever read a horror book. I have read the most disgusting dark books ever, but I have not read a horror book, like a supernatural horror book ever, and I am the biggest fan of supernatural horror movies. And I was like, why have I never read a horror book? Which is why I wanted to get this one. Again, this was the velvety one, and the nails are shiny matte, and it's so pretty, and I think it is 800 pages. No, almost 700 pages. So I love it. It's thick, it's beautiful, it is horrifying. It is going to be an experience of a lifetime. Next up, I got these two books. We have Love Light Farms and In the Weeds, which is a part of a series. There's also a third book which has recently released, and I still have to get my hands on it. One of it is a friends to lovers romance, one of it is an enemies to lovers romance, one of it is probably like a spicy book, something like that. And I like all these three things. It also has so many other tropes that I like fake dating, and I am just so excited to read them. September is here already. I am probably going to read it in September because they feel like September books to me, or maximum October, and I am so insanely excited. I have never read a book by B.K. Borison, and I have seen it in so many places that I was so excited to get it. So I'm just waiting for the third book, because you guys know I can't start reading a series if I don't have all of the books. But once I do get it, I'm gonna get on it. Next, I got the third book by Olavi Blake. So she has the Atlas 6 series, which I do not have. But apart from that, I have all of her books, except I had all of her books, except this one. I had Alone with You in the Ether. Wait, is it recording? Yeah. I had Alone with You in the Ether. I had One for My Enemy. I also had the rom-com that she has written under her own name. And the only one left was Masters of Death by Olavi Blake. This one was reprinted this year, or reissued, or republished. I don't know how you say it. I think it was published for the first time in 2018, and now because Olavi Blake has become so famous and everybody is discovering that she is actually a gem of a writer, some of her books are being republished, and this is one of them. Obviously, it's Olavi Blake. I was not going to miss out on an Olavi Blake book. I am like literally the biggest fan of Olavi Blake. The way she writes, the way her mind works, I have never seen this writing style everywhere else. It is so unique, it is so out of this world, and it is utterly engaging. My mind is never this silent as it is when I'm reading any book by Olavi Blake. And I'm saying all of these things because I've already read it, a little bit of this book, and I love it. I really do. So yes, you guys, I got the third book. Now I have all Olivia Blake books. Obviously we have the series left, the Atlas 6 series, but the series, the last part, I think, is it the last part? I'm not sure, but the last part is coming out in January 2024. So I don't know if I'll instantly buy it or I'll take some time and buy it, but once it is out, and if it is the last book, I'm going to read the entire series together, and I cannot wait. I just can't wait for it. I can't. And in the end, we have Loki by Melvin Burgess. This is a collection of short stories, or just stories, some stories of the Norse gods from the perspective of Loki. I love the cover so much, and I am so intrigued by the premise of the book. I don't think I have read anything about Norse gods or in that mythology realm, so I'm so excited to dive into it. I have only read Indian mythology and Greek mythology, so it's all really exciting, and I really love it. My only issue with the book is the text. What is that text? What is that? I have to do this to read if I'm not wearing my specs. Again, a book that is completely out of my comfort zone. I've never read something like this before, but I am excited to read it. And with that, we come towards the end of the video. I think they are the 20 books that I got in this month. I think, okay, let me just take my thumbnail. Yeah, okay, because once I keep these books, I'm not picking them up again. But yes, you guys, these were all of the books that I got in this month. I have read so many of them, so do wait for the August wrap up. And the ones that I have not read, I'll probably read in September, so do look out for videos in September. Something crazy is also happening in September, which I don't know when I start talking about it, but look out for that too. And I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye.